Luke begins to tell us that the legal expert or the lawyer wanted to test Jesus. So if he wanted to test Jesus, he already had an answer to the question he was going to ask Jesus. But he asked the question anyway. What must I do to inherit eternal life? Well, you see, for this legal expert, it was about him doing something to earn his ticket being punched to be somewhere for eternity. So Jesus asked him so that he may answer the question in a way that he knows the law requires. What does the law require? What is written in there? What did Moses tell you? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, all your strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Great! Jesus, I've done it. But by the way, Jesus, who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? Instead of Jesus saying, all of your Jewish relatives and neighbors, friends, if you will, are your neighbors, he tells a story. The story we know as the Good Samaritan. And he tells the story in order to contrast two communities. The Jews will have nothing to do with the Samaritans. But Jesus tells the story so that the one who shows pity and compassion is a Samaritan for a Jew. So then, who is my neighbor? The lawyer says, the one who showed compassion and pity was neighbor. Go and do likewise. What might likewise look like for you and for me? If we were to go and do likewise, what would it look like? Now, Jerusalem is not here for someone going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and being taken by robbers or somebody, I mean, if you're on 17 and you get robbed, you're in the wrong business. Never mind that. But anyway, you're on 17, you're not walking, you probably are driving. But our reality is different. So when Jesus says to you and me, go and do likewise, what is he saying? So let me suggest this to you. I just said a minute ago that the Samaritans and the Jews had no relationship. The Jews despised the Samaritans. And then the one who showed pity was the Samaritan for a Jew. The one who was despised. If the man had not been beaten and left by the wayside, would he have welcomed the help of the Samaritan? Probably not. But he was at the point of death. The priest probably was on his way to go and say mass, and he didn't have time to waste, so he went on. The Levite was trying to get all his work done because the priest was going to hold him accountable, so he passed on. And I suspect the bishop was trying to get his vestment. No, man, don't say I say that, but Jesus had religious people passing by the man who had been beaten. Why didn't he just have an ordinary person? He put the people who knew the law, the people who were supposed to show compassion and pity. Those are the ones that Jesus in this story have coming by and seeing the man in need and going past. Because they're going to fulfill, I suspect, their religious obligations. And so the one who comes and stops, he probably is on his way to do some business, but he sees someone who needs help. And so he stops to render assistance. And he doesn't help him and leave him by the way. He takes him to an inn and even pay in advance and say, when I return, I will give you whatever else you spend. So who is my neighbor, and what does likewise look like for you and me? I'm sure, like me, Every time you turn on the television in the last few days, you have been overwhelmed by the images. And thank God for all of the network. I mean, they show you the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, I get sick. I don't know about you. I have seen it 50 times, because by the time you turn it on, there it is. You know, after the first or second time, shut it down. But never mind, they have to sell the news. They have to tell us that this is the way the man shot people, and these are the number of people that were shot and all of that. But you, like me, have seen the images. Whether it is in New Orleans, it is in Minnesota, or it's in Dallas, you have seen the images. Who is my neighbor? The one who shot the others was the neighbor. I submit to you today, Donald Trump is Hillary Clinton's neighbor. I submit to you today, Jeff Bush is Donald Trump's neighbor. I submit to you today, Barack Obama is David Duke's neighbor. I submit to you today, the people who plant the watermelon and the peaches that we buy when we're driving on 9 that come from across the border, you know the border? They are our neighbors. But they are the migrant workers that come and plant all these things that with the fruits we buy. Yeah, they are the ones who plant them and harvest them, and we buy them when we're driving on 9, either going to Lawrence or coming back. They are our neighbors. So you and I have to recognize that it's not the person next door or on the same street. I'm sure you've heard this sermon before, but you will hear it again. But the point that I want to move on to quickly this morning is the one that has to do not with the ones in the distance, the one that is very near. Who is my neighbor? Here we are. Is it easy for us to know one another? About 3 weeks ago, a group of us went to St. Paul's AME Church for the 1-year anniversary of the Charleston 9. And when we were there, we were recognizing, or we acknowledged, you will, the Orlando 49, quarter 50, because the one who committed the crime himself was our neighbor. After the service, we came out and people were saying, we should do more like this. Black and white, men and women, all of us were there to celebrate, in some way not celebrate, but remind ourselves of the senseless violence with which we live each and every day. And the question was, okay, we should do more like this. Who's going to take the lead? The priest, the pastor, or who's going to take the lead? You and I'm sure again, turn on the television and listen to the commentators and the pundits as they go on and on, whether it is CNN or it's Fox or it's NBC or whatever the case is. Listen to them trying to justify or rationalize all of the carnage we see before us. Take the same group of people and put them in a room and say, talk to one another. Oh boy, you want to see what it looks like being uncomfortable sitting with others? Put us together and get us to talk to one another. I submit to you, even in the house of bishops, some of them don't talk to one another. But those are the people that dress up on Sunday and walk around because they are our religious leaders. Who were the people that went past the man who was by the wayside? The religious folks. Our discomfort with getting to know one another so that we can get past all of these things that so polarize us is part of what keeps us apart. Until we can get comfortable with our discomfort, we are not going to get to the place of being comfortable with one another. So assumptions are made about others. But the other is my neighbor, according to Jesus. But I don't want to go to the house of bishops. I don't want to go among, the diocese and all of that. The community. So let me begin with our diocese and work my way back to this congregation. You may not be aware of it, but as I stand before you, I'm still the only black rector in this diocese. And that was even before we split in 2012. And for many of you, I'm the first black priest you have had a direct interaction with. Many of you have come to this place and met me. You have never had a black rector in your history. Why is that? It's because we're a part of a denomination where the search committee will send all the word and get the names and weed through it. And whether you're looking for a priest or for a bishop, people sit around the table to make decisions, make assumptions. I continue to be the only black rector in this diocese. Now there are two black priests in this diocese, Wilmot and James. But James is the chaplain of Voorhees. When will we get to the point where that's not a big deal? I am not an exception. I am not unique, if you will. Yes, I am Wilmot. There are many other black clergy who could be serving in congregations. But why haven't we done something about that? Now you can see where I'm going with this. And if you're getting uncomfortable, you got the point. That's exactly where I want to get this morning. Because we have to talk about these things and talk about them in a way where we can still walk out of the room laughing and talking to one another and not walk out of different doors. We still, my brothers and sisters, have yet, even as a church, to try to nurture environment where people can have open, honest conversation. Listen to all of the pundits and everyone out there as they talk about all of the shootings that have taken place. And we have short memories, you know. By next week, we'll move on to the next phase of what's happening. And this will be behind us. People have asked me, and this week I've had some interesting conversation, but people have asked me, so Wilma, how did it happen for you to end up being the rector of St. Stephen's? And I thought I dealt with this 14 years ago. 2 weeks ago, I had 35 young people and their chaperones sitting in these pews from a Baptist church in Richmond, Virginia. And that was one of the questions. How did you do it? It's not what I did, it's what God did. But the point I tried to make for that group was, St. Stephen's did not go to New York City when I was serving as the priest in charge of Trinity and interview me to come to be the rector. I had spent months with this congregation. You have gotten to know me, I have gotten to know you, and when the time came, you said to Bishop Salmon, God rest his soul, I hope you have heard that he died last week. We want Wilma to be our rector. And I'm not going to go through the whole story of what happened, but in the end, Wilma became your rector. And here we are. But the reason why that happened, and that's the point I want to make, you got to know me. I was here with you, I was serving with you, and you got to know Wilma as a person and as a priest, and you said, this is the man we believe God has called to be our rector. 14 years later, I'm still standing, you haven't gotten angry yet, and if you have gotten angry, what do I care? No, I don't care. But I'm still with you. And as a family, we rise and we fall together. And that's the point I want to conclude with this morning. This past week, I found myself visiting parishioners in the hospitals and at their homes who are in various stages of their health. For a number of them, death is imminent. But the thing that all said to me, it's almost like they had a script that they had shared with one another, and they said, when Wilma comes, we'll just read the script. All of them said to me, that congregation of ours is something else. The calls, the prayers, they have reached out to us in a way that it's just amazing. And I said, no, it's not amazing. It shouldn't be amazing. Because we have tried to cultivate in this place, and we don't always do that for all, but we've tried, and because we are people, but we try. And they were acknowledging that and saying to me, you have led us. And no, it's not me, it's us. Because it wouldn't happen if we all didn't participate in it. We are where we are today as a church family because we all have participated. If you alienate yourself and you want to be an island, then fine. But if you want to be a part of the community, we will welcome you and do the best we can to let you become a part of us. And then sometimes we fail at doing that. But please have mercy and forgive us and help us to reach out to you as you reach out to others. The beloved community that I suspect Jesus prays for and wish for is for us to sit down and wrestle with our discomfort with the issues and concerns that we have, so we can get from that place of being uncomfortable to being comfortable with one another. And then when a call is made and the cops respond to the call, they will not come with the assumption that as soon as we arrive, bullets will be fired. And then a man will not decide, I'm going to get up this morning and I'm going to go and kill white folks. Or a young man will not get up and say, today I'm going to go and kill black folks. Because they will say, they are all my neighbors. Who is my neighbor? The one who showed mercy and compassion. Go and do likewise. Go and do likewise.